Hi there, and welcome back to the HQ. Today, we are going to be reacting to the entire story of Kingdom Hearts Union Cross Explained by Damo279. Well, I know pretty much, most things about Kingdom Hearts. About the main series, anyway. So, the only thing I don't know about, actually, or know very little about, because I've only played a little bit of it, is the mobile game, Union Cross. And considering the fact that one of the Union Cross's most important characters, it seems, is in the trailer for Kingdom Hearts 4, I feel like I should probably learn. So how better than an hour-long YouTube essay? So let's just jump right into it and see what we learn about Union Cross.
After 8 years and 4 separate installments, the story of the Kingdom Hearts Key saga has now been told. The events that took place across these games retroactively set the stage for everything that would chronologically follow in the rest of the series, and will surely have tremendous influence on future titles.
Oh,
It's
I bet.
fundamentally the story of the Master of Masters, and his grand orchestration of events that would irreversibly alter the lives of his disciples, his adversaries, thousands of innocent children, and the entire world itself.
Yeah. The Master of Masters really did just kind of irreversibly change the course of history by just pulling his pulling his stunts. I'm sure it's just not gonna I'm sure it's gonna turn out fantastic in the Master of Masters saga.
This video is a heavily condensed explanation of that story. I've been covering the story since 2018, so if you'd like to see a
Jesus.
far less condensed version told as each update was released, check the playlist in the description. And if you'd like to see
I don't
all
think
the
I'm
cutscenes
going to
without
do
my stupid
that.
voice talking over them,
I don't think
the
I'm gonna
option
do
to watch
that.
them all in what I consider the ideal order is in the description as well. Without any further
I
ado,
I will
let's
take
get
the
started.
condensed version.
This is the entire story of Kingdom Hearts Key, Keyback Cover, Unchained Key, and Union Cross.
Are they different things? I'm gonna guess it's like different editions of like the same mobile game. I'm gonna guess that.
Let's dive in. Light and darkness are fundamentally at odds with each other. Much like the physical concepts that these fantasy elements are based on, darkness can and does exist in literally every corner of the known universe.
Yeah.
It is only the introduction of light that drives away and displaces the darkness, but deepening the darkness that is cast in the shadows. Long before Sora, Riku and Kairi were ever born, a boy that would one day be known as the Master of Masters lived among other beings of light. But those beings were in conflict with beings of darkness, as natural opposites are wont to do. The combatants on both sides were mortal, and were able to attack and slay each other's physical bodies. But the conflict fundamentally changed when the forces of darkness attempted a drastic move that, if successful, would see them become undefeatable. They shed their physical bodies and reduced themselves to a formless existence, and without a physical body to destroy, they could never truly die. Attempting to attack these formless beings of darkness was ultimately pointless, as they would simply reconstitute themselves again. Worse still, these beings of darkness can now infiltrate the hearts of the beings of light, possessing and taking control of their bodies, stripping their victims of their dignity, as they were powerless to stop themselves from...
That, I mean, it certainly explains why, like, the only things that can hurt a Heartless are Keyblades, which are weapons of pure light. So, you know, because it's like Sora tried to fight back against the Heartless on Destiny Islands, and it's first time he saw them, and he couldn't do anything with this little wooden sword. Only when a Keyblade came to him could he actually hurt them, which makes me wonder, why is Leon able to hurt them with his gunblade?
submitting to the darkness's bidding.
Also,
The moment
geez,
that the
seizure
darknesses
warning.
began to hide within the bodies of the beings of light was the beginning of what would come to be known as the Keyblade War. But what the Dark Forces didn't realize is that by abandoning their physical forms, they had inadvertently put themselves at risk of losing their individual will. With enough time, they would completely lose their ability to think independently, to form plans and to rationalize. They would be reduced to beings only capable of acting on instinct. But they could stave off that fate by inhabiting the bodies of people with hearts. So, not only was their possession of people a means of attacking the light, but it also became a necessity for preventing their willpower from fading away. And hearts tainted by negative emotions became the perfect targets for possession. Of
That makes
all the beings
sense.
of darkness that shed their form, 13 of these dangerous such darknesses
Of
existed.
course it's
Shadows that
13.
retained their
Of course
individual,
it's
independent
13.
will. Others were able to derive forms of their own, possibly by corrupting the forms of those that belonged to the light, becoming beings known as the pure-blood heartless. As that young boy grew into adulthood, he would lose many allies to the darkness, taken from him in humiliating deaths that saw his loved ones used as nothing but powerless pawns and vessels of the 13 darknesses. It seemed
God
inevitable
damn.
that the darkness would ultimately continue to spread and eventually extinguish the light. After all, they were literally undestroyable in their formless state. But over
Yeah.
the years, that boy grew into a man and devised a momentous plan. One that would require immense and unforgivable sacrifice, but could ultimately secure victory, or at the very least, a ceasefire in this war. He began his plan in a world known as Daybreak Town, a world brimming
Daybreak
with
Town.
light, and a town whose people seemed oblivious to the greater war between light and darkness. At this time, the individual worlds were all part of one enormous connected land known as the Realm of Light, and the man himself owned, or possibly created himself, a mysterious weapon known as a Keyblade.
So, the Master of Masters is the one who created the Keyblades then. That's what I'm guessing. Like, I know it all comes back to the Master of Masters because of course it does. But so the Master of Masters was the one who channeled light into a physical weapon to wield against the darkness. Which makes sense.
The man, now known as the Master of Masters, would select and train 6 apprentices, each filled with light and possessing a strong resistance to darkness.
Yep.
Step 1 of the
13
plan
darknesses
was for
and
the
the 7
Master's
lights.
6th apprentice, Lushu, to be bequeathed the Master's Keyblade, embedded with the Master's very own eye. The Master had formed a temporal link with that eye, essentially allowing the Master to see through that eye into any moment in time that the Keyblade might one day be. Lushu was then instructed to take that Keyblade and a mysterious black box and travel out into the world, staying out of sight and not getting involved in the coming conflict at all.
Fat load of good that did. Saying, we know who Lushu is now. And he got very involved. We still don't know what's in that box, though. We still don't know. I'm sure we'll probably find out in Kingdom Hearts 4. I don't know, maybe it's like a new vessel for the Master of Masters to inhabit? I don't know.
Eventually, one day passing that Keyblade on to his own apprentice, and from that apprentice to a future apprentice, and so on, but continuing to watch over it from a safe distance until the Keyblade fell into the hands of its intended wielder. This would take countless lifetimes, and to achieve this, Lushu would have to eventually cast his body away and sequester his heart into the body of someone new, many, many times, as each vessel reached the end of its natural life. It would take countless lifetimes, but Lushu would be there to watch over the Master's Keyblade as it made its way naturally through time, being present for every major moment in history there would ever be. With the ability to peer into any moment in the future from the Keyblade's perspective, the Master of Masters wrote down the events he saw in a book known as the Book of Prophecies. He gave a copy of this book to each of the other 5 apprentices, who would come to be known as the Foretellers, along with a new name, Keyblades, and a role that they had to play that must be kept a secret from the rest of the Foretellers.
Yeah. So, I know the gist of the Foretellers, because I did play, like, some of Union Cross, but not enough to get, like, the actual gist of it. And I have seen, like, the movie of Union Cross. So I do know that much. And I know enough about the Foretellers. But yeah. I don't know like the wide broad strokes of the story, but this is definitely like giving me a lot of like it's definitely telling me a lot more about Master of Masters that I didn't know, like the fact that the original 13 Darknesses were like after him specifically, only for him to make the weapon to fight back against them.
The 5 Foretellers each read their copies of the books and learned the horrible truth that awaited on the final page. The world would be lost. Darkness would prevail and light expire. The 5 Foretellers, bastions of light and Keyblade masters in their own right, yearned to prevent this tragedy from occurring, but were explicitly forbidden by their master from forming alliances or going against their given role. They were simply to create their own unions and recruit the various children of Daybreak Town to those unions as Keyblade wielders, where those children would be tricked into collecting the physical light from the world.
It's got to form an army of child soldiers.
The Master also planted the idea that a traitor lurked among the foretellers, that one of the five was secretly working to ensure the downfall of the light, that they could trust or confide in no one but themselves. The foretellers would be manipulated into distrusting, then hating each other, destined to lead the children that pledged their loyalty to them against the other unions in an event of mutually assured destruction that would one day be known as the Keyblade War. And with his plan in place, the Master of Masters disappeared from the world, vanishing without a trace, not to be seen again for hundreds, if not thousands of years.
Big Dog just
This would
dipped.
cause the foretellers to feel genuine, terrible pain, frustration, helplessness, hopelessness, and sadness, an entire cocktail of emotional suffering. All they could do was stand helplessly by and await the inevitable, powerless to go against the Master's explicit orders.
Like, yeah, I mean, at this point, the Master has basically orchestrated this whole thing to go wrong. Like, if anything, he's the one that invited darkness into all of their hearts by sowing the seeds of that possibility. Hmm.
Lest they be thought of as the traitor by the rest of the five. Their secret role only served to accelerate the journey to their inevitable confrontation, as each union leader struggled to gain more light than the other, in the fear that the Traders Union would gain enough light and use it to do something drastic like summoning Kingdom Hearts, the source of all light in the world.
Yeah.
But the Master desired for exactly this to happen because the foretellers were trained to withstand the destructive emotional turmoil. The negative emotions they harbored would unknowingly make them the perfect bait. Of those 13 darknesses we spoke of, 5 of them would be unable to resist the temptation of invading the foretellers' hearts. But once they infiltrated the foretellers, they would find themselves unable to take control of the foretellers' bodies, trapped by the foretellers' unwavering hearts that still shone with light, no matter the darkness that attempted to extinguish it.
Okay, so his plan was to trap 5 of the 13 primordial darknesses by using his own apprentices as bait and trusting the fact that they are so that they are just so full of light and so confident and so powerful that it just wouldn't take them over and it just wouldn't work. You're putting an awful lot of confidence into your students there.
Well, I should say 7 darknesses. The Master's plan was also for himself and Alushu to harbour one of the 13 darknesses within their hearts, and in conjunction with the unknowing foretellers, the 7 most deadly darknesses would be sealed away within these 7 hearts.
Oh.
Until the Keyblade War, that is. As fate, or the Master intended, the foretellers would lead their unions into war at what would come to be known as the Keyblade Graveyard and fight to the death over Kingdom Hearts. The events played out seemingly exactly as the Master intended, and though Arthur's fate is unclear, it is assumed that at least Ira, Aced, Gula, and Envy perished, as did the darknesses trapped within their hearts, as did the thousands of children recruited into the unions. We can't be certain yet, but let's say 5 of the 13 darknesses housed within the foretellers presumably perished in the Keyblade War, and with the one still trapped in the Master, as well as the one trapped in Lushu, that left 6 darknesses to be dealt with. But at such tremendous cost. The lives of thousands of children and the entire world itself were the price the Master paid, just to rid the world of up to 5 of the 13. As said, the Keyblade wielders had spent their days unknowingly siphoning the light from the world, leaving it, in my mind, hollowed and empty, primed to be destroyed as a casualty of the destructive force of the Keyblade War.
So, just trying to destroy these darknesses, he probably created so much more darkness as a result. God damn, dude. On top of the fact that we know that the foretellers, at the very least 4 of them, aren't even dead. Because they appeared at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3.
Shattering the realm of light into thousands of independent pieces and scattering them, making each piece completely inaccessible from each other, and surrounded by darkness that flowed in to close the empty space between. These separated pieces would one day be known as the independent worlds, but protected by barriers that prevented exit and kept them completely ignorant of each other's existence, seen only by their once connected neighbors as stars in the sky. The Master orchestrated such merciless destruction, the ruination of the realm of light, the sacrifice of the Master's most loyal and devoted followers, and the thousands of children that pledged their allegiance to the foretellers themselves, all to defeat a handful of the forces of darkness. In fact, it seemed the sole survivor of the Keyblade War was us.
Yeah.
Well, our character, the playable character of Kingdom Hearts Key. To rewind briefly, we started our journey by being recruited into one of the 5 unions and spent our days collecting Lux with our
Yep.
Trophy partner as our foreteller
That's
instructed
all I
in the
really
Disney
know.
worlds. We didn't
Yeah.
really question our reality
Whole
or our
lot of
mission until we met a
whole lot
new
of
young
filler.
wielder from a different union, Ephema. He challenged the story he had been told, correctly believing that the worlds we traveled to were nothing but illusions.
Now we know he's important because he appears in Kingdom Hearts 3 for that brief moment. Very cool moment, very fun moment, but we know he's important. Plus he has a unique design.
The Heartless we fought were fake, and the light we were collecting was the light of the world itself, not light stolen by the Heartless. We quickly formed a friendship with Ephema, and together tried to sneak into the Daybreak Town Tower after seeing the mysterious location in a dream and feeling compelled to visit it. It took us all day to find the secret entrance, and we decided that we'd come back tomorrow so as not to arouse suspicion among our union leader with our absence. However, we never got the chance. Despite waiting for Ephema all day at the Fountain Square, he never arrived. A girl called Strelitzia noticed just how sad and
there
disappointed
she
we were,
is.
though, and wanted to
We know
introduce
her.
herself, but never quite worked up the courage. A few months later, a girl named Skuld approached us with a warning. Ephema had contacted her in her dreams and wanted to warn both Skuld and us that the Keyblade War was almost upon us, and as such, the world
Oh,
was
that's
about
not
to
good.
end. We rushed to the Daybreak Town Tower, fighting through Darklings,
Oh.
children that had become corrupted by darkness, ironically in their pursuit of defending the light, and the Chirithy that had also been infested with darkness, and found Master Ava.
So, Darklings. I know I've seen the Darkling on the cover of Kingdom Hearts 3, and I guess that just didn't really mean anything at all, did it? But so Darklings, as we know from the from the video from Barry, Good Enough Summary, that they are Keyblade wielders corrupted by darkness. So it makes more sense. Like they're so greedily trying to gobble up all this light that they get turned into these embodiments of darkness, sucking up more darkness.
She confirmed to us that yes, the world was about to end, and asked if we'd like to join a group called the Dandelions. As I mentioned earlier, each of the foretellers had a secret role that they were forbidden from sharing with the others, and Master Ava's was to ensure that there would be survivors after the Keyblade War. She would gather Keyblade wielders from all the 5 unions, those most resistant to the darkness, those brimming with light, and train them to enter a different world instead of fighting in the Keyblade War. These chosen wielders would be known as the Dandelions, and in this new world, there
I
would be
have
no
heard about the
memories of any
Dandelions.
strife between the foretellers, no memory of the Keyblade War, no painful emotions for the darkness to take root in. However, in this new world, there would be 5 new union leaders to watch over the Dandelions in the foreteller's stead. When the Master of Masters gave Ava her role, he instructed her to recruit 5 specific Keyblade wielders and make them take over as leaders of the Dandelions that would escape to this new world after the foretellers had perished. Ephema was one of these new union leaders. The reason he was unable to meet our character at the Fountain Square was because he was assisting the preparation of this new world. The Master had written the names of Ephema, Skuld, Strelitzia, a boy named Laurium, and a boy named Brain on a list for Ava, and told her to recruit them as Dandelions and promote them as the new union leaders in this new world. One of these union leaders was circled in red, and Ava was to give that union leader their own copy of the Book of Prophecies.
Oh.
This alternate world
That doesn't sound
is
like a good
actually
idea.
a data backup of Daybreak Town and the false worlds that the Keyblade wielders had been visiting.
Okay. So we've got more data worlds then. More data worlds.
The data backup was made to be a near-perfect replica of these illusionary worlds, along with a data backup of...
Okay, so I know Barry said that Ventus is there. Because, Ventus is right there. I hope we get some kind of explanation for that.
all the people who lived in Daybreak Town. The belief was that the Dandelions would be safe in this data version of the world, sheltered in a place that the destruction of the Keyblade War could not reach. However, the remaining darknesses could. Just as the Master has selected 5 apprentices to become the Foretellers, who would each trap a darkness within their hearts and perish in the Keyblade War, he had also orchestrated for the 5 new Union leaders to also unwillingly house one of the remaining 6 darknesses within them.
Okay, so then he basically did the same trick not once but twice. He was going to have each of them take on a darkness, and then have 5 of the kids and the dandelions also house one of the darknesses. And what? Just do the Keyblade War, like just run it back a second time?
And the one final darkness would be trapped within this data world, as it inevitably fell to destruction as well. These 5 would not be felled in this time. Rather, they would be sent to the future, where a new generation of Keyblade wielders would be tasked with ending them. This was the plan as the Master of Masters described it to his apprentice Lushu. He would directly sacrifice 12 people, including Lushu and himself, as well as the entire world and the lives of thousands of children, all to defeat the darkness.
Jesus
His young student
Christ.
Lushu was disgusted by the plan, feeling that the cost was too great, that the lives of all these people were not simply his master's playthings. The boy was bubbling with rage, but seemed to calm down slightly when the master revealed he had a safety plan for all those he planned to sacrifice. Likely, in my opinion,
What
the
kind
data
of...
backups of the various people in Daybreak Town. The young master walked away silently with the box in
Bruh.
hand to carry out his stated mission, as the master wished his apprentice well.
So your whole thing is just like, oh, it's not really that bad that you're killing thousands of people because you're just going to create some synths of them? Jesus.
Whatever Lushu's heart told him was right. Whatever he thought, whatever he felt, whatever actions he took, Lushu was the key to the future.
Mm.
Because Lushu would inevitably defy the master's spoken wishes. In a sense, Lushu was a traitor. This is the problem with predestination paradoxes. The master had looked into the future and written a book filled with invaluable and presumably accurate information about what that future would contain.
So Lushu's the traitor, and he knew he was a traitor because he counted on him being the traitor to ensure that darkness lost at the end of the day.
He had
Huh.
forbidden Lushu from reading it, but apparently allowed his adversary, the Darkness, to have a peek. And he had also told Lushu the entire plan. But once you know what the future holds, you can make an effort to change it. Like I said,
Yeah.
the Master said that his plan was for these 12 people to become traps for the Darkness, but things deviated from that plan. With mere days before the Keyblade War, Strelitzia combed through Daybreak Town searching for our character, trying desperately to save us from having to fight in the Keyblade War, when one of the Darknesses possessed a lonely young boy named Ventus, and
Oh.
used his body to murder Strelitzia and take her green rulebook, allowing Ven to infiltrate the Union leaders unknowingly as an imposter.
Uh-oh.
Master
So Streletsy is dead, but she's also in the trailer for Kingdom Hearts 4. I'm sure it'll be explained. I'm sure.
Ava had also slightly disobeyed the Master of Masters by changing who she gave the Book of Prophecies to, instead handing it to Brain, believing that his heart would guide him on how best to use it, and hoping that by changing the events that were written in the Book of Prophecies, perhaps the ultimate outcome could be changed as well. And Lushu allowed Ava to confront her, revealing what he believed to be the truth about the traitor and the Master's intentions, shaking her to her core, and possibly making her deviate from her intended fate. We don't really know just yet. Other than that, the first part of the plan seemed to go off without a hitch. Like I said, it is implied that Ira, Aced, Envy, and Gula, and possibly Ava, perished in the Keyblade War.
Yeah. So Ava is somewhere, I'm sure. The other 4 of the foretellers are right there with Lushu, who is of course revealed to be Zigbar or Braig, depending on your persuasion. But god damn.
The Dandelions
We're
did as
only
they were trained
15
to do
minutes
and
in.
escaped into the new world, not realizing they had entered a data version of the world they already knew, and were having their memories overwritten by their Chirithi partners. Our character had chosen not to escape with the Dandelions. We had been taunted by the Dark Chirithi, and it claimed that it belonged to us, and instead, we joined our union on the final battlefield, and withstood attack after attack from each of the other 4 foretellers.
Jesus.
The battle nearly killed us, and as we lay mortally wounded, we were saved only by the intervention of Skuld and Ephema, who returned from the dream world they had been awaiting the war in and rescued us, sending us to the data world with the rest of the Dandelions, causing us to also lose our memories of the strife in the process. And, as instructed, the Union leaders assembled in the Keyblade graveyard after the Keyblade War had concluded, formally meeting each other for the first time, and, at this stage, not realizing anything was wrong.
So I know also that Marluxia somebody is in this as well. So I'm guessing Laurium is Marluxia somebody. Hmm. More questions than I do answers.
An imposter was among them. They soon joined the rest of the dandelions in the alternate Daybreak Town, not
Amogus.
realizing that instead of the world they had practiced entering, they were now in a data world, and that they were now trapped within it. But once in that data world, it gradually became apparent.
Is that motherfucking God, what the fuck is her name again? God, it's lost on me. Why is it lost on me? Hmm. Fucking Larxene. God damn it. Why did it take so long for me to remember that? Hmm. That's Larxene. I'm gonna record. I mean, now that I think about it, there was a cutscene in Kingdom Hearts 3 where you had Xemnas talking about the secret Keyblade legacy within Marluxia and Larxene and a few other members of the Organization 13. So I guess that makes sense that Larxene somebody is there.
That things had gone off course. For a start, Strelitzia's absence was noted by her brother Laurium.
Okay, so Strelitzia is Laurium slash Marluxia's sister? Oh, that just makes things more interesting. And also sad because she's absolutely dead.
Sought out her former party member Arena for any clues about her
Arena.
whereabouts, and she
Okay.
revealed that Strelitzia was last seen searching for our character, right before the Keyblade War. Ephema and Lorien paid us a visit, and although we couldn't help out, given that we'd never actually spoken to Strelitzia, we agreed to keep her in our heart. We finally got to spend some time with Ephema again, but unfortunately it was cut rather short, as we soon noticed some strange glitchy occurrences in Daybreak Town, and we
Oh,
went to go
it's
investigate.
bugging out.
We returned to the tower with Ephema, as the intelligent brain claimed to have stabilized the glitches, and correctly guessed that we must be in a data version of Daybreak Town.
Huh.
These glitches seemed to be occurring because our data world was being forcibly connected by a strange other world that didn't belong to the realm of light as we knew it. Ephema
Okay.
and our character teamed up to check out this strange world, and found out that it was a hub world of sorts, connecting to several other data worlds, full of characters that
Of course, it's Game Central Station. It's fucking Wreck-It Ralph. Of course it is. It's a shame that they didn't use this concept for another Kingdom Hearts game. That would have been really interesting as like just fun worlds to just muck around in.
were innately aware that they lived in data worlds. We chased some Darklings who seemed to be searching for someone in particular through this hub world and its connected worlds, and tried to learn why the glitches had invaded Data Daybreak Town. We met a villain of this world, and though we suspected him of being the source of the glitches and the darkness, we eventually realized that he didn't have any darkness inside him. This world had good guys and bad guys, but they didn't seem to be motivated by darkness or light.
Yeah,
We got off
just
course
the
when
job.
a Cybug absorbed a Darkling and pursued it into the Candy Kingdom, and our
Oh.
presence seemed to stabilize the glitches of the young Vanellope. Eventually, we defeated King Candy and tracked down the last of the mutated Darkling bug hybrids. Just like Vanellope was a princess but decided to be a racer, our Chirithy wondered if we might also have another version of ourselves, maybe even one that potentially belonged to the darkness.
And just like that, Union Cross is using its Disney World tie-ins even better than other games did.
And with our leads exhausted, we decided to return home to Daybreak Town. During this time, the intelligent brain quickly put it together that not only was Strelitzia supposed to be a Union leader, and that one of the 5 was in her place, but he also correctly ascertained that there were intangible beings of darkness.
Ain't no way his Chirithy is wearing a fucking trilby as well. Ain't no way.
Pulling the strings behind the scenes.
Oh
After
my
that,
god.
he gathered Ephema, Skuld, and Ventus with the intention of privately telling Ventus that his name wasn't on the list of Union leaders. The poor boy initially refuted the idea. He was so sure that it had been Master Ava that approached him, walked with him to the Daybreak Town Tower, and given him his green rulebook. But by searching deep within his repressed memories, Ven realized that, indeed, something terrible had happened. His body had
God
been used to
damn.
commit a dreadful atrocity and tricked him into believing Master Ava had chosen him. He was never meant to be a Union leader, and the poor boy passed out from the pain of the revealed memories.
God,
Lorian wasn't
Ventus is
present because,
just.
again, he was out searching for his sister's
Mm.
whereabouts, and he stumbled across Maleficent
Of course, Maleficent's here. It's just always Maleficent. Maleficent's always getting into some trouble.
in the tower's basement. Okay, so, recall that in Kingdom Hearts 1, Maleficent suffered a defeat against Sora and had her heart unlocked by the Ansem-possessed Riku. Kingdom Hearts, man. At this moment, her heart left her body,
Okay.
and she remembered that a strange old man had told her long ago, without the burden of a body, her heart could travel through time to a prior version of herself. She attempted to travel back about 10 years to the time of birth by sleep, but in doing so, fell for the trap that the Master of Masters had set for her, traveling all the way back to the age of fairy tales and to the data version of Enchanted Dominion.
Okay. So. So then Mm, the Maleficent of Kingdom Hearts, after she was defeated, traveled back in time into the Union Cross world and mucked about in Union Cross before she showed back up again in Kingdom Hearts 2. Okay. Kingdom Hearts.
Once here, she got beat up again by our player character and was frustrated that the events played out exactly as they had the first time around. A Keyblade wielder, paired with Prince Philip, still managed to defeat her. She exclaimed her frustrations aloud, and one of the 13 Darknesses answered her, revealing to her that she was trapped in a data world
Oh.
far further in the past than she had attempted to travel to. The Darkness escorted her to the Data Daybreak town and led her down to the tower basement. Well, the Data tower basement. Here,
Jesus.
the Darkness informed her that this was the only method accessible to her to leave the data world. These 7 arcs. Using an arc would transport its occupant into the real-world version of this room, the basement of the real Daybreak Town Tower. As Maleficent was about to enter one of the pods, she was approached by, as previously mentioned, Lorian, who confronted the intruder, but was badly beaten by her.
God damn, Lorium, how do you get beaten by Maleficent? No wonder you became a Heartless. Or, not a Heartless, a Nobody. You got your ass whooped, buddy. Also, geez, that is a very, it's a very shoehorn way to squeeze a Maleficent familiar with Keyblade shenaniganry into this.
Destroying one of the 7 data arcs in the process.
Mm.
Maleficent and this Darkness took the rightmost arc from the data version of the Daybreak Town basement to the real Daybreak Town basement, where Maleficent eventually agreed to take the now real-world version of this pod and be transported back to the future. As the real-world version of this arc accelerated to the speed of light,
Okay, time travel via arcs, Lifos, pods. Arcs, max of 7 can exist in each data world and real world. Prints you in the real world.
it would strip away its occupant's body, leaving nothing
Accelerate
but
to
a
the
heart
speed
that
of
could
light,
surpass the
strips
speed of
away
light
body.
and travel through time to its intended destination. A destination that is determined by following a waypoint. To be completely
Determines
reformed from
waypoint,
that
determines
heart at
when
your
and where
destination,
heart
you require 2
arrives.
things. You need a medium to reform your body with,
Medium
and you
reforms
need
body
someone
at
that
the
remembers you,
destination.
that holds memories of you. To repopulate your own body with your own
Memories.
memories.
Separate person at destination to complete chain of memories. So that's how she came back then. Is she used the arc to leave the data world into the real world, traveled forward in time to a point where people would remember her to reconstitute her body and memories, which was the point in Kingdom Hearts 2 where her crow brought her cloak into Disney Tower and reformed it when the fairy godmothers remembered Maleficent. I think I'm getting the gist of that.
give you a sense of self. Darkness has apparently read snippets of the Book of Prophecies, and seen that Maleficent exists in it shortly after her defeat in Kingdom Hearts 1, so that's her waypoint. And anyone that's played Kingdom Hearts 2 will remember her being reformed from a cloak left behind after her defeat, which acts as
Yeah.
a medium, and the memories were unintentionally provided by the 3 good fairies, allowing her to be fully recompleted at the beginning of Kingdom Hearts 2. So, Darkness convinced Maleficent to enter, and she took one of the
Okay.
7 pods from the real world. So that's 1 gone from the real world, 1 gone from the data world, and 1 destroyed in the data world. The darkness did not travel with her into the future, it remained in the real world. But no sooner had Maleficent departed than it was approached by Luciu.
Oh.
As Laurium lay defeated on the ground, he dreamed of a more peaceful time with his sister Strelitzia, recalling that he
Oh.
teased her about this silent Keyblade wielder that she had developed something of a crush on.
Oh.
This moment of bliss was quickly interrupted though, as Laurium's dream was seemingly contacted by some version of his sister in a white robe, and the shock was enough to jolt him out of his slumber. His assailant had vanished and the room was empty, so there was nothing left for Laurium to do but return to the other Union leaders. Poor Ven awoke from his slumber,
So they only
fully
have 4
remembering what
arcs
happened to him,
then.
and also headed back to his Union leader pals. Skuld, Ephema, and Brain discuss what had happened. They think Ven was telling the truth, but infer that there must be forces of darkness acting much closer than they realize. They wonder if the darkness may come for the Union leaders. Heck, it may have already come for Strelitzia. At the same time, the wounded Laurium finally reached his comrades, and
Hey, Rye. We're just learning some Kingdom Hearts lore.
quickly became enraged at the idea that the rest of the Union leaders had been hiding knowledge of his sister from him, the crucial knowledge that she had been murdered. He lashed out at his allies, playing exactly into Darkness's plan by harboring terrible negative emotions towards his fellow Union leaders. Ven also arrived and confessed his responsibility out of guilt, turning Laurium's wrath upon himself.
God,
But as Ephema
damn.
held off his enraged ally, Ven screamed in pain as the darkness that was hiding within his body finally revealed itself. Brain began to question the strange being in front of them, and the darkness revealed several things, such as that their main goal was expansion and infection. The darknesses existed to reach and infect every world, and planned to soon infect the countless currently uninfected worlds that were connected to the game's central station. Data Daybreak Town was about to be destroyed as part of the Master's plan to trap the remaining darknesses. By that first darkness sending Maleficent into the future, it had started an irreversible process to end this world.
Okay. So then, I guess the process to destroy the world and the data world and the darkness is trapped inside of it is activated by the activation of one of the arcs. So now they're on a time crunch.
This darkness took control of Ven because the Book of Prophecies stated that he was a being that would harbor darkness in the future, and tried to convince the Union leaders that Ven wanted power, and the darknesses simply tried to give him his wish by striking Strelitzia down and usurping her position as a Union leader. Laurium took the bait and attacked, but the injured wielder was effortlessly flicked aside, joining
My
Vengeance
man's got
in unconsciousness.
whopped. God
Brain ascertained
damn.
that there indeed were multiple darknesses, but the one in front of the Union leaders was the only one present right this moment, so he rallied Skuld and Ephema to attack it, without success. Eventually the darkness confessed that Ventus was not to blame for Strelitzia's death, and Laurium joined his allies against their new foe. This was the exact moment that our character emerged from the Candy Kingdom with Keyblade in hand, making the fight a 5 versus 1. A fight
Perfect.
that we were able to win, but again,
Barely,
to
it
no
seems.
avail. The formless darkness could not be destroyed, and it was immediately able to reconstitute itself. Ventus awoke and realized that this darkness had used him, extracting all of his own natural internal darkness from within his heart as it exited his body, leaving Ven as a pure light. The poor boy was the target the Darklings had been searching for, but he embraced his status as a pure light and marched confidently towards the darkness, intending to withdraw it within himself once more and give his fellow Union leaders a form for the darkness that could be permanently destroyed.
Okay, hold on. So, this pure darkness then. This pure darkness. Is that fucking Vanitas? Like, I mean, if at this point in time, if at this point, Ventus is a pure light, in the future then, whenever he has his darkness and light split, this pure darkness must be Vanitas. And Vanitas is one of the original 13 pure darknesses. And we saw him be destroyed in Kingdom Hearts 3. Okay. Okay. I'm following along. See, whenever you do your homework, Kingdom Hearts isn't that hard to follow along with.
He told Laurium that everything was going to be okay as he leapt towards the darkness, seemingly successful in his attempt to draw it back within his heart and falling into a deep sleep. Shortly after,
God,
Lorian
Ventus
watched
just be
over his sleeping
napping.
ally, apologizing for acting rashly, but ominously concerned that the darkness still slept within Ven. The awful train of thought was interrupted by Strelitzia's presence once more, a faint apparition that prayed for her brother to let go of these venomous thoughts and emotions,
Ugh.
instead of stoking them. Ephemer interrupted and let Lorian know that Elrena had arrived. She wished to speak to him with further news that might help him. A couple of days ago, Strelitzia's figure seemed to have been spotted in the Day to Daybreak town, walking with one of the masters.
So is Strelitzia alive, or is it a replica of Strelitzia? That's what I want to know.
It seems that Lushu has entered the Day to Daybreak town and potentially collected the data backup of Strelitzia, and may have extracted what he could of it from the data world. But the Dandelions didn't have time to chat. With Maleficent's departure, the timer had begun, and this world was coming to an
Yeah,
end.
I'm guessing it's a
Brain
data
scooped up the Book of
backup.
Prophecies. Lorium scooped up Ventus, and together the group went downstairs into the basement. And now we can return back to Lushu and another of the darknesses in the real world. Lushu carried a white cloak under his arms and approached his adversary, who was surprised to see him. From its hasty reading of the Book of Prophecies, the darkness believed that all the masters would be gone by this point. Lushu activated the terminal and sent this mysterious white coat away into the future, using one more of the 7 real-world pods, referring to it as the True Dandelion, again to the surprise of darkness. The True Dandelion slumped under his arms as Lushu carried it, and was therefore seemingly unable to walk on its own, quite unlike the Data Strelitzia Lushu was seen walking with only days before, and there were also no distinctive tufts of orange hair that could be seen from under the hood. Strelitzia's real body faded from this world when she was struck down, so perhaps this true dandelion is in some way connected to Strelitzia, perhaps a collection of her data memories stored formlessly in this white robe.
I mean, it would have to be, because we know Strelitzia is in the trailer for Kingdom Hearts 4. So the true dandelion has to be Strelitzia.
I suppose it doesn't have to be Strelitzia though, and this will be discussed in its own video soon.
It's
Lushu
probably
is again choosing
Strelitzia.
to interpret the Master's instructions, rather than following them to the letter, which seems to be what the Master of Masters actually wants, and is counting on. That makes him a traitor in the strictest sense of the word, but it is Lushu's unpredictable nature that the Master seems to believe is the wildcard factor in eluding the darkness, and ultimately prevailing over it. Despite Darkness's taunts, Lushu affirms his loyalty to the Master. Even though he can't tell what the
Yeah.
mysterious man is thinking, Lushu is certain that the Master of Masters is no fan of the darkness. Lushu
Absolutely.
questions this darkness, trying to ascertain the status of the ones that remained after the Keyblade War, believing that there should be 6. It's interesting that Lushu can see that things have deviated from the Master's stated plan though. If everything was going as intended, there would only be one free darkness right now, but that
Yeah,
is clearly not the case.
Oh yeah,
One
there's
is
more
currently in
than
front of
one.
him in the real world. One was just fought by the Union leaders. 7 should have been trapped within the Foretellers, the Master of Masters and Lushu, and that leaves 4 unaccounted for.
Yeah.
This darkness is again taken off guard by the depth of Lushu's knowledge, but
Yeah, so we've got 4 unaccounted for. So where the hell are they?
affirms that yes, the 4 Lushu was concerned about are still in the data world, meaning that the one with Lushu now is the only thing standing in his way. It's pointless to try and
Oh.
destroy this formless darkness, but perhaps Lushu has come up with another plan, as he draws the Master's blade and approaches his foe. The implications of what happens next are enormous, but I'm sorry to say that we don't actually get to see. Instead,
Of course we don't get to actually know what happens. Of course.
we return to the data version of this
Of
run as
course.
the Union leaders have just arrived. Time is running out for this world.
Mm.
Only 5 usable pods remain, and they need to make a decision. After some discussion, they come to the understanding that Brain stands the best chance at freeing all the Dandelions, not just the Union leaders, if and only if he's able to control things from the real world. Lorium, Elrena, and the unconscious Ven will accompany him, while Ephemer, Skuld, and the player will stay on the data side and take care of things from this end. As Lorium, Elrena, and the unconscious Ven enter their pods, Brain bequeaths Ephemer with the Master Defender and the copy of the Book of Prophecies Ava gave to him, believing that they
The Master Defender. That eventually makes its way to Ericus, and then Aqua, doesn't it? Because that looks like Ericus's Keyblade. Also, it's a shame that the game that Brain was going to be in, I'm pretty sure it was like that Pokemon Go like Kingdom Hearts game that got canceled. You know, it's a shame we never got that part of the story. I'm sure they'll do something with it. Nomura never takes a chance to pass up on a story arc, so I'm sure he'll do something with it.
Were always meant for Ephema, and Ephema agrees to hold onto them for Brain temporarily until they see each other again. Brain tells Ephema, "May your heart be your guiding key," and at this moment, there are 4 friends present and a key. Brain also enters a pod, and together the 4 dandelions escape into the outside world, leaving one unused for now on this side. As soon as they arrive in the real world, Brain begins his attempts to bring Ephema, Skuld, and the player across as well. But seeing his time is limited, he insists that Lauriam, Elrena, and Ven use 3 of the real pods and escape into the future first, ensuring the survival of the light.
So, how exactly do they get to the future? If they're from the past, how do they get to the future? Like, do they use like each other as like the barometer? Like, how do it work?
Brain can't be sure when or where the pods will take these 3, but asks Lauriam to keep his goal of finding his sister in mind. That will serve as his waypoint. The 2 Union leaders share a touching farewell, as Lauriam and Elrena join the still unconscious Ven in their pods. But as Brain seals them in, the room starts to violently shake, and Lauriam can only call out his ally's name before he is immediately whisked away into the future.
Okay, so Lauriam has to be important in Kingdom Hearts 4, right? He has to be. Like maybe he's like now like he's like a wandering keyblade wielder trying to make amends for his past as Marluxia, and maybe Elrana is doing the same thing alongside him. Hmm. But like considering the fact that Strelitzia, his sister, is around in the trailer for Kingdom Hearts 4, he has to be important in the next game, right?
Brain turns and sees what Lauriam was trying to warn him of. Someone else has entered the room. Master Lushu approaches Brain and essentially asks him about the status of the Union leaders, perhaps as a test, with Brain confirming that 1 was struck down, Strelitzia, 1 escaped
Yeah.
moments ago, Lauriam, and 2 were trapped within the data world along with the player character, Ephema and Skuld. Lushu wonders if Brain will be taking one of the remaining pods, but Brain insists that he will be sending the 2 currently in this world back into the data world, and with the one that still exists there, he will bring Ephema, Skuld, and our character back across and send them into the future, before dedicating his life to staying alive amidst the dying world and trying to free the remaining dandelions. Lushu approaches the young wielder, chastising him for his recklessness. Once the lifeboats depart, that's it. There will be no awakening the Data Daybreak town after it falls into the slumber of darkness. It's a trap designed for exactly this purpose, to cage the darknesses and prevent their escape. There will be no way to unlock it. He continues, letting Brain know that these lifeboats are incomplete. Anyone using one of them needs 2 things of their destination in order to become complete again. Someone with memories of them, and a vessel to occupy, which is interesting given that that's very different from how the Master of Masters phrased it, whereby you needed a medium to reform your body, not a vessel to possess.
Hmm.
Brain didn't know the exact details of how these things worked, and he doesn't have a concrete plan, but no matter what, he is determined to succeed, no matter how long it takes. Lushu makes his way to within arm's reach of Brain, and complimented him on his intelligence, before lamenting that he only had 1 lifetime to live. We don't see what happens next.
Okay. So there's definitely some implications there. We just don't know what they are because they don't bother to tell us what they are.
But again, the implications are huge. What happens is intentionally left ambiguous, likely because the exact occurrence will be elaborated on further in future Kingdom Hearts titles. But believe me, we can make some assumptions.
If
While
only.
this conversation between
If
Lushu and
only.
Brain has been happening in the real world, Ephema, Skuld, and our character have been busy in the data world as well. No sooner did their companions leave when they were set upon by the 4 aforementioned darknesses, the ones whose whereabouts Lushu wasn't sure of. They approached
Well, that's
Ephema,
not
Skuld,
good.
and the player with an ultimatum, given that it had taken 5 dandelions to defeat just 1 darkness. Attempting to fight against 4 darknesses with only 3 dandelions would be pointlessly impossible. The darknesses assumed that the dandelions were about to make their escape from this dying world, and only asked that the dandelions kindly open them a portal into the data worlds before they left, seeking to infect those currently neutral worlds. They required a keyblade to unlock those doors, and if Ephema didn't agree, then they'd simply possess the player character and do it themselves. But there was no way the heroes of the light would agree to aid the darkness willingly, so the 3 keyblade wielders took up arms against their hopelessly powerful foes. Knowing their odds, Ephema whispered under his breath for our character to jump into an arc as soon as the fighting began and escape. He and Skuld would sacrifice themselves to keep the darkness busy.
Okay, so if they're in the data world, then how does he appear in Kingdom Hearts 3 when they're, whenever he appears in Sora's vision? If he is trapped in the data world.
Our character looked around and realized the hopelessness of the group's situation. Then, with a small smile, realized what had to come next. We revealed the horrible news. Ventus had not been successful in trapping the darkness we battled earlier within his heart. It had nestled itself within our heart instead. Now in control of our body, we commanded the other darknesses to stand by as we attacked Ephema and Skuld with our full power, and they were forced to retaliate in kind. Yet, with our tremendous strength, we were able to overwhelm both of our allies, causing them to keel over in pain and exhaustion. We stood over Skuld, raising our Keyblade high as if to strike her down with it, and launched taunts at Ephema, hoping to stoke his rage, sorrow and anguish, emotions that the other darknesses thrived on, and reminded him that if he'd only opened the portal to the other worlds, none of this would have happened. As we motioned to swing our Keyblade down over the helpless Skuld, Ephema screamed out in desperation and shot a beam of light through our heart, opening a portal behind us that sucked both our body and the 4 darknesses that orbited us into it, sealing it shut after we had vanished through the gateway. All he could do was desperately apologize to us as our body flies into the portal, having no choice but to trap his possessed dear friend in a horrible world, surrounded by enemies.
We're only halfway through. Does something come from that? This seems like it's like endgame stuff.
But now he and Skuld are alone. An eerie silence fills the air, where moments ago had been the clashing of Keyblades and screams of regret. With nothing left he could do in this data world, Ephema dispels his Keyblade and scoops up Skuld in his arms. At the same moment, 2 pods are sent back through from the real world into the data world, meaning there are now enough for Ephema, Skuld, and the player. However, that pod will unfortunately go unused. Ephema places Skuld inside a pod and enters its neighbor himself, and the 2 forlorn wielders make their escape into the real world. The 2 pods materialize in the real world, and out they step into an identical copy of the room they just left, of course unaware of the events that just transpired here. From Ephema and Skuld's point of view, 5 pods have departed from this world, and they would have no reason to assume that anyone other than Maleficent, Lorien, Ven, Elrena, and Brain were their passengers. They couldn't possibly know that one of those pods was taken by the true Dandelion, and of course could not possibly know what happened between Darkness and Luxu, or Luxu and Brain for that matter. But again, unfortunately, neither do we. All we know is that after Brain and Luxu's conversation, 2 pods were sent back for Ephema and Skuld. This will be an important detail to remember later. The pair slowly walk to the roof and bear witness to the maelstrom that is ravaging the real Daybreak Town. Tornadoes pull the water that once ran through Daybreak Town's aqueducts upwards. It's almost as if the pull of gravity itself is being reversed. The chaos of the Keyblade War caused tremendous trauma to the world at large, and now the departure of the lifeboats has heralded the destruction of this town and its data equivalent. If it hasn't happened already, the Realm of Light will soon be destroyed and split into thousands of independent chunks that we will come to know as the independent worlds from the future of the series. As Ephema and Skuld return to the basement and hop into the pods once more, the pods that will now propel them into the future, a teary-eyed Skuld can at least take solace that she isn't alone at the end of all things. Ephema tries to convince her to stay hopeful, but as he closes his eyes, all he can think of is our character and the brief time we had spent together.
God,
and now the poor
hurts.
wielder who just wanted to spend time with Ephema, who followed Ephema into the Daybreak Town Tower, who gave up the chance to escape into the real world just to stay with Ephema, is now trapped, all alone, in an impossibly horrible situation. Tears roll down Ephema's eyes as the pod doors close, just as the entire Daybreak Town Tower seems to come crumbling down on top of them. Speaking of the player, they woke in the connection between the data Daybreak Town and the game's central station after being flung through the portal Ephema opened. The other 4 darknesses congratulated their ally for baiting Ephema into opening a portal into these data worlds, worlds that were now ripe for the infecting. Our breathing was extremely laboured. In a few short hours, we had battled our way through the Candy Kingdom, a terribly corrupted Darkling, one of the 13 darknesses, and now Skuld and Ephema, after which Ephema pierced our heart with a beam of light. The darknesses that orbited around us advised the darkness that lingered within our body to remove itself, lest it perish along with us. but through our pain, we managed to smile. I didn't think tricking you guys would be so easy. Are
Oh?
all of you this gullible? We stood up and used our Keyblade to seal the opposite side of the corridor that Ephemer had sent us into, and the darknesses realized what had happened. We were never possessed, no. We had realized that there was absolutely no other option, and fooled not only the gathered darknesses, but also Ephemer and Skuld into believing we were under that first darkness's control.
So, us, the player character, managed to trap the other darknesses for good. God damn, dude.
As said, Ephemer locked the way in, and we just locked the way out. These 4 darknesses are now trapped in this corridor between worlds, and angrily disperse themselves, possibly searching for an escape. But our body could take no more punishment. We fell to the ground, and apologized to our Chirithy for getting it trapped along with us. We picked it up in our arms, and held it close to our chest, as our body faded into a bright, white light. The entire Data world, as with the real Daybreak Town, was falling to darkness as the Master of Masters had orchestrated. And as Master Ava had predicted, when the
God
Daybreak
damn,
Town fell to
dude.
darkness, it should enter a state of sleep. This concept was prominently featured previously in Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance. As the various worlds lost their hearts to the darkness prior to Kingdom Hearts 1, many of them entered a state of sleep, and the worlds themselves dreamt of more peaceful times. After the destruction of Ansem the Seeker of Darkness, and the sealing of the Door to Darkness, many of these worlds were restored to the Realm of Light. However, if not for the intervention of Sora and Riku, some of them would have remained stuck in that state of sleep. Recall that Sora and Riku travelled backwards in time
Yep.
to enter the Sleeping Realm within the Realm of Darkness, and were able to unlock 7 sleeping keyholes, freeing some of these worlds from their slumber and allowing them to be awoken back in the real world.
Yeah.
So to cut to
We
the
know how the
chase, this is
sleeping
what is about
worlds
to happen
work.
to this world.
Oh.
It is doomed and is falling to darkness. And it, along with all of its residents, the Dandelions, will be falling to sleep. But instead of losing their hearts to the darkness as this happens, each of the Dandelions' Chirithy stepped in to protect them, shielding their bonded wielders' hearts within their bodies, and taking on the appearance of the spirit Dream Eaters we have seen throughout Dream Drop Distance. We have been told since Dream Drop Distance that spirits protect sleeping dreamers, and we are now seeing that in an extremely literal sense. Don't forget that the Chirithys are the creation of the Master of Masters, made to hold on to the wielders' gathered light, their memories, and now their hearts. Perhaps these were also part of the Master's backup plan to keep the wielders safe all along. As for
So then the Dream Eaters we find in Dream Drop Distance, they're all the Dandelions. God, that just hits harder, man.
For our character, we ask our Chirithy if we will also fall asleep, and it responds that we have a choice. So many of our dandelion friends are still waiting for their new beginning, their birth by sleep. And we could join them, or if we refuse to sleep, our heart would end this life, to be reborn and melt into a new heart. We get a brief flash of what this life would look like, and see ourselves in the arms of what I can only assume is our new mother, as she tearfully hands us off to a stranger in a blue cloak, in an unknown, unfamiliar city. That stranger takes us to a world we've never been to before, a series of peaceful islands that keeps us entirely separated from the outside world. It seems the stranger dedicates the rest of his life to keeping a watchful eye over us as we grow from an infant into an adolescent, until the day where they cannot watch anymore and they reach the end of their life. Soon after that,
Okay. So the player character is reborn as Xehanort. Oh, Kingdom Hearts.
we'll find a way to escape this world and find ourselves in an unfamiliar land, but it seems like we will make a wonderful friend while we are there. We peacefully close our eyes, knowing that our adventure is not over yet, and take our Chirithy in our arms. It wishes us a good night as our body disappears and our heart floats away.
God damn.
So, we chose to be reborn and saw some happy moments from our new life. But of course, any fan of the series will recognize that our character will be reborn hundreds of years in the future as Xehanort, and the moments of our life we saw did not include the more tragic moments of what will one day become our story. So as not to indulge in speculation, I will elaborate more on this in its own video, but one thing we do know for relatively certain is the moment the stranger dies is the moment that Xehanort's future self is able to approach him and make contact, allowing us to take the first step down our dark road. After the storm has passed, a pod
God
washes up
damn.
upon the obliterated ruins of Daybreak Town. The camera is initially zoomed in on a figure that emerges from the pod, a figure that is surely Ephemer, but it quickly
Yeah,
zooms
with
out to
that,
reveal a
with those
massively
curly
made
locks,
mannequin.
that has to be Ephemer.
Maleficent's heart safely arrives in the future, allowing her body to be reformed in Yensid's tower, as we previously saw in Kingdom Hearts 2.
Yeah.
Maleficent's Raven took the Evil Queen's cloak to the mysterious tower shortly after Sora had departed on his second great world-hopping adventure. And at the side of the cloak,
Yeah, we
the
know
three
that.
good fairies Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather unintentionally provided the memories necessary for Maleficent to reform herself in the present. We also see Lorium, Elrena, and Ventus have arrived somewhere in the future as well. Lorium appears to be in the Dwarf Woodlands among a field of flowers. Poor Elrena is on a cliffside among a lightning storm in the Enchanted Dominion, and Ventus
Orana.
lies unconscious among the Keyblade graveyard, and is discovered by someone who just happens to be passing through the sacred land at that moment. We can assume that this is the much older Master Xehanort based off his ninth report from Birth by Sleep. So there I stood, with vast knowledge in one gnarled, dying hand, and newfound purpose in the other. The next step was clear. I needed a new vessel. And that was when I met Ventus and made him my pupil. We were destined to meet, and I could sense the potential within him. But the boy was too benign for his own good. I came to the conclusion he was too frail to serve as a vessel, and decided to use him for a second purpose I had in mind.
Okay, so the player. So the player is not Xehanort, it's the guy in the blue robe. So we are not Xehanort, we are Xehanort's master then. Okay. Hmm. That's interesting.
I would remove the darkness from his heart and split him in two. Then I would have my heart of pure light, and my heart of pure darkness. I believe all three of these young people arrived at approximately the same time period, a few years before the events of Birth by Sleep. Recall that Lorium used his goal of finding his sister or her backup data as his waypoint, which for some reason brought him to this time period. Elrena likely used the same goal, or Lorium himself as her waypoint, but there's
Yeah.
also the possibility that they used Maleficent as a waypoint. Remember, Lorium did briefly meet Maleficent in the day-to-day breakdown, but poor Ven didn't even know he would be time traveling. But perhaps the darkness within him that had read the Book of Prophecies and knew that Ven was destined to arrive at this point in time took the wheel and let him arrive at this point in time.
That makes
Hell,
sense.
Maybe Ven yearned to be with his friends and found a tiny trace of our character within Xehanort, leading him to be reformed at the exact same location where he had first met his new friends, at the exact moment that Xehanort was passing through.
Well, now that I know that information just now, that we are not Xehanort, we are the old man who raised Xehanort, that probably didn't hold much water.
The medium to reform the bodies of these three was potentially the flowers Lorium found himself in, the lightning striking the Enchanted Dominion, and I suppose the wind that was blowing in the Keyblade graveyard, possibly contributing to the powers the three would one day be associated with. Unfortunately, no one existed in the current day that could or would provide these three with memories to reform themselves completely. It seems like they retained their own names, but precious little else. I'd argue that Lucio should still exist at this time, and potentially have memories of these three, but certainly not enough to fully restore those memories to their hosts. All three will now take their place in the series timeline as we know it. Ven will soon be trained by Master Xehanort, and show tremendous resilience to using any of his latent darkness. Perhaps the amnesiac boy doesn't even truly remember why, but feels with all his heart that he must not allow the darkness within him to be unleashed.
That's...
Unfortunately for him,
God
though,
damn.
it will. Xehanort will extract that darkness within him, his own natural darkness, plus one of the 13 darknesses, to become the being Vanitas. Though that being will be reabsorbed back into his heart at the end of Birth by Sleep, lingering just below the surface once more. Lorium and Elrena might spend the next few years or so on Dwarf Woodlands and the Enchanted Dominion respectively. I can't imagine the two would have any methods of leaving those worlds, given that the pair
they
clearly
don't.
have no
Yeah,
memories of
they
their
don't have any
Keyblade
memories. They don't have any memories, so naturally they wouldn't be able to use their Keyblades to travel between worlds. So they'd be trapped there.
After the events of Birth by Sleep, once Samson the Wise has been banished, and his former apprentices form an organization dedicated to creating an artificial Kingdom Hearts, they will begin seeking out additional members to fill out their ranks. We do not know the circumstances of Demyx or Luxord's recruitment into the fold, but we do know that it will fall upon Xigbar to seek out additional members, and that he will personally recruit Lorium, now Marluxia, as the 11th member, and possibly, if not likely, Arena as well. As we know, Luxia...
That it makes sense that it's Zigbar slash Marluxia, or Zigbar slash Lushu, that recruited Marluxia and Larxene. That makes sense because he knows who they are. He read the Book of Prophecy, so it's very likely that he knew exactly who he was going to recruit.
She has remained loyal to the Master this entire time, and dutifully continued to steal vessels of countless people until he arrived at his latest and last visage, Zigbar. Lushu did express care and concern for the Union leaders those hundreds of years ago. I wouldn't be surprised if he has been keeping tabs on them throughout the years, now fully having an excuse to keep them at a very close distance. After we see the shots of Ventus in the Keyblade graveyard, we see another shot from what appears to be the exact same location, just back those hundreds of years in the past. A hooded figure dragging the black box and holding the Master of Masters Keyblade in their hands makes their way across
Yep.
the Keyblade graveyard.
Lushu
They pause,
carrying Black
take a moment
Box
to
and
turn,
No Name.
hold the Master's Keyblade aloft and recite to themselves, "May my heart be my guiding key." The figure opens his hood and reveals his face. Brain's face. I refuse to allow myself to speculate here and add another 5 hours onto this video, so I'll just give you some quick thoughts, and I promise this is the quick version.
Huh.
Lushu may have taken Brain's body as his original vessel, but I'm not so sure about that. That would essentially break continuity with the 12th secret report of Kingdom Hearts 3. To me, it makes more sense if he chose Brain as his first apprentice and bestowed him with both the Master's Keyblade and the Black Box before setting off on his centuries-long task to watch over the blade from a distance until it fell into the hands of a wielder intending to recreate the Keyblade War. This seems to fit in line perfectly with the 12th secret report, where Lushu stated that he had handed the blade to a Union leader before departing, and at this stage, Brain is the only Union leader left in this time, except Ephema. It would also possibly explain why Lushu is unaware of the box's whereabouts at the time of Kingdom Hearts 3, but is able to find it after the conclusion of the Keyblade War, because at this time he simply doesn't have it. There is, however, one big problem with this, and it's the final scene of Kingdom Hearts Union Cross.
Yeah?
Brain has awoken in a strange new city that he has never seen before, but we will recognize as the city that the baby Xehanort will be born in.
Yeah.
He is
Scala
immediately
ad
greeted by a
Kylum.
man dressed
Or
in a
no, that's
purple
not
and
Scala
black
ad.
cloak,
Is it Scala ad
hood,
Kylum?
and hat that obscures his face and introduces himself as Sigurd. The man knows that Brain was destined to arrive at this exact point, at this exact time, and hands Brain back his hat, which seems likely to me to be Brain's medium that reformed him at this point in time. Sigurd radios the news of Brain's arrival back into his headquarters, and beckons Brain to follow him there. Brain has some questions first, asking if any of his friends that escaped Daybreak Town's destruction have also arrived at this time, but unfortunately, Brain is the only one that did. As they walk through town, Brain spots a familiar figure atop the fountain in the middle of this town square. Sigurd explains that this was the original Keyblade Master of this world, Scala ad Kylum. But Brain of course knows who it is.
Scala ad
After all,
Kylum.
Ephema was one of his best friends.
The founder.
Whew. Okay. Again,
Oh,
I'm ignoring the
that
temptation
fucking
to
gave me
speculate for as long as
goosebumps.
I want to here, believe me. But here are the things I'm fairly certain have happened. Let's rewind a bit. Skald's pod time traveled into the future. She likely arrives in Radiant Garden a little while after the events of Birth by Sleep, is found by the apprentice Xehanort, and imprisoned in the Radiant Garden Castle's dungeon and given the moniker Subject X. Subject X barely remembers her past, with scant recollections of 4 friends, a key, and the phrase, "May your heart be your guiding key." Her captivity is noticed by Issa and Lee, shortly before she is rescued by someone with an eye patch, who is likely, though not confirmed, Lushu. And during the events of Kingdom Hearts 3, her whereabouts are shown to be of concern to Ansem, the Seeker of Darkness. In my mind, because of her connection to his research. Ephema's pod did not travel through time. He emerged shortly after the destruction of Daybreak Town.
So, the girl that Lee and Isa were friends with is Skald. Subject X. Okay.
And armed with the Book of Prophecies and the Master Defender Keyblade, began creating a city named Scala ad Kylum, likely just as the book, in a manner of speaking, instructed him to do. It said he would, so he did it. Of course, this Scala ad Kylum looks extremely different to the one we are familiar with from both Dark Road and Kingdom Hearts 3. Recall that Ephraim had promised to return both the Book of Prophecies and the Master Defender Keyblade to Brain the next time the pair saw each other, and once this brain materializes in the new city of Scarlet Red Kylum, potentially several generations after the city's inception, I believe these items will be returned to him. I have a feeling that at this time Ephraim will have long since passed, but he will have left instructions for the guardians of this bizarre city in the event of Brain's arrival. This is certainly not confirmed, but Kingdom Hearts Dark Road implies that Brain will start a family, and that the young Ericus will be his grandson. But we know
Oh.
that something will happen to that grandfather. He may have disappeared from the world, or perhaps even perished, but given that he would be an older man by the time of his grandson's birth, which should be around the time of Xehanort's birth, I can't help but wonder if this Brain is the old man that agrees to take Xehanort from his willing but regretful mother and hide him on the Destiny Islands. I'm certainly not positive about that though. In my mind, Brain will definitely be trying to dedicate his life to freeing the trapped dandelions from the Data Daybreak Town, something that could take him a lifetime to achieve.
But so now we know this information isn't correct. Because we know now that the player is the one in the blue cloak. That does muck some things up.
And possibly cost him up to his life if successful. Let's not forget, there are 4 darknesses trapped in the Data Daybreak Town as well. Opening the data cage that contains the dandelions, said to be the symbols of the world's hope, but accidentally freeing the darknesses within it. Sounds a whole lot to me like opening Pandora's box.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, if everything I've said so far is correct though, the huge mystery in my mind becomes, how can Brain seemingly be in 2 places and times at once? The last line uttered by Luciu to Brain before the circumstances get fuzzy is, "It's a shame this lifetime is the only one you've got." My brain immediately wonders, what if the statement was somewhat rhetorical, and perhaps there was a way Brain could lead 2 lives at once? Again, this will get its own video, but to give you the extremely quick version, my earliest possible thought is that...
Okay, so my quick thoughts. One of the brains is a data replica. One of those is Data Brain. Maybe? I mean, if there's one pod left in Data Daybreak Town, that's very much a possibility. You'd never know with all this data bullshit.
Okay. Perhaps Luciu retrieved the data backup of Brain from the Data Daybreak Town and
that's what I was
sent one
thinking.
into the future while making the other his apprentice. Let's put aside the speculation for now and try to end this video by bringing it back to the beginning. The Master of Masters' plan to trap or defeat the 13 darknesses that he claims have attacked the people of light. 5 were to perish in the Keyblade War in the bodies of the 5 foretellers. The Master of Masters and Luciu were also to each house one, and as soon as the Master's plan was set up, he would time travel into the future as Luciu made his way there manually, living each and every moment patiently as he awaited the return of the Master. 5 should have been trapped within the 5 Union Leaders' hearts and jettisoned into the future through time travel arcs, meaning that 7 would arrive in the future, where a new generation of Keyblade wielders, capable of prevailing in a renewed Keyblade war, would be there to defeat them. This seems to be the implication of the Kingdom Hearts 3 epilogue scene. The new game that Ericus describes sees 7 black pieces facing off against what one would assume to be the Heroes of Light, with the first piece entering the board being the crown that represented Sora in the previous game. And one final darkness would be trapped inside the data world. Maybe the Master of Masters intended to keep it trapped there eternally in this place, rather than utterly expunging a fundamental force of the universe. Or perhaps he intended for it to be destroyed last, after the remaining 12 had been taken care of, and the combined forces of light from both past and future could complete the feat together.
Well, considering we know that there's at least 4 darknesses in Data Daybreak Town in that sealed off junction of Game Central Station, I don't think it worked out quite that way. Right? Because I don't think that, because we know at the very least one of them escaped to the future in Ventus and became Vanitas.
However, as stated, things deviated wildly from this plan.
Yeah.
I think we can only say with any level of assuredness that 4 of the foretellers perished. It's possible Ava did as well, but given the implications from the epilogue, I'm not so sure.
But if they're dead, did Luciu just bring them back to life or something? Because they are at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3.
The 5 darknesses that were supposed to possess the Union Leaders certainly diverged from the path. The one, perhaps intended to possess Strelitzia, ended up entering Ventus's heart instead and murdering the poor girl.
Yeah.
Based on the events of Kingdom Hearts 3's Reminds DLC, it seems that though it was able to roam free for a time as Vanitas, now that Vanitas has rejoined with Ven, this particular darkness still lingers deep within Ven's heart. The other four darknesses.
Wait. So was Vanitas destroyed, or is it just like back to being in Ventus again? Hmm.
Possibly intended for the remaining Union leaders, have all found themselves trapped within an external corridor of day-to-day breakdown, rather than the world itself. And I think the implication is that the Master of Masters and Lushu successfully trapped the darkness within their hearts as well. The Master does seem set to arrive in the future as planned, but what
Yeah.
about the one inside Lushu? Before we forget, he's already perished, right? Maybe even twice now. It's likely he faked his death in Kingdom Hearts 3, but his Nobody and his Heartless must have been defeated in Kingdom Hearts 2, which allowed him to be recompleted. I suppose it probably doesn't count as properly dying, though. So let's just say that Lushu also has a darkness within his heart, and is also poised to be struck down in the present. So that's 4 or 5 struck down already, 1 each in the Master and Lushu, 1 in Ventus that hopefully we can find a way not to destroy, and 4 trapped in the data world. That makes 12 that we have a pretty good idea about the location of. Now, for the 13th and final darkness. The
Yeah.
one that was last seen with Lushu in the real world, where it seems they were about to have some sort of confrontation.
Where is
Again,
it
so we
at?
don't have to speculate, I'll cut to the chase. We know the darkness could not have been destroyed without a form.
Yeah.
So unless
Obviously.
Lushu quickly forced it into some sort of vessel and then destroyed it, I would assume it's still out there. I see there being 2 interesting ideas here. Either Lushu took it upon himself to try and bear the burden of a second darkness in his heart,
I don't think
which
he would have
possibly had
done
an
that.
effect on his personality from that point onwards, or he drove it out into the world, allowing it to spread and corrupt people throughout the realm of light, and giving one explanation as to why darkness exists in people's hearts in future titles, before the advent of Ansem and his apprentices' experiments.
Okay, yeah. That would explain it. There being a single darkness out there pulling the strings. So it's all just a matter of just trying to find and destroy this one last darkness.
So things have clearly deviated from the Master's stated plan, but of course, this is the Master of Masters we're talking about.
Yeah.
This could well have been the plan all along.
Yeah,
He
for all
knows
we
his
know.
adversary Darkness is shrewd and cunning, and it will take an extremely complicated plan with a healthy amount of unpredictability to actually triumph over them. After all, the original ending of the Book of Prophecies described an event in which darkness prevailed, which is why, in my mind at least, the Master allowed darkness to have a peek at the book, and why darkness is attempting to follow along with that future the book described as closely as possible.
That makes
If
sense.
they follow what is essentially a series of instructions, they should end up completely extinguishing the light, or so they believe. Which, in a way, did happen. The original
Yeah.
ending to the conflict between light and darkness in Kingdom Hearts 3 was that darkness prevailed, just as the book said it would.
Yeah.
It was only through a breaking of the taboos of nature that allowed Sora to rewind time and alter the events that were apparently destined to happen, allowing the lights to ultimately triumph over the darkness.
Yeah, so he only wrote in that part of it. He didn't like write in the fact that there was going to be someone stupid enough to manipulate the power of waking to break natural taboos and just pull like an Uno reverse card on them and just like beat them back.
Master Xehanort infused 13 vessels with his own darkness, and each were defeated, allowing the creation of the Keyblade. I had wondered if Xehanort's entire purpose for being was to be the Master's final backup plan. If the 13 darknesses were not destroyed as planned, perhaps they would all find their way into this one ultimate heart, our reincarnated hero from the age of fairy tales that was able to channel an ever-increasing amount of darkness without ever seeming to be fazed by it. A wielder who would ultimately triumph over every seemingly impossible situation they found themselves in. Would such a heart be capable of handling all 13 darknesses within it, with
Well, we know that's not entirely the case anymore.
some gentle prodding? Would they attempt to recreate the Keyblade War? And if that sacrificial lamb, containing all 13 darknesses, was destroyed, would the darkness be defeated once and for all? I am less confident in that idea now, but it could be one explanation from why Xehanort was taken from his place of birth. Perhaps to avoid the fate that was written for him. Perhaps it was why the Master chose to personally visit him and send him down his dark path. One final sacrifice in the name of defeating the darkness. The darkness cannot comprehend what the Master is planning, just as the Master cannot truly comprehend what the darkness is after.
The Master
The two
really
have
is
discussed
just
as
playing
much,
like
and
5D
on
chess
one
here.
such occasion, the Master revealed to the darkness that he was sending not just himself and the Union leaders into the future, but also 7 crowns, that one would assume will help the forces of light. He also revealed to the darkness something of great importance to him that he had noticed while peering through time. A world he can't even imagine. Using the other Kingdom Hearts games as context,
Yeah.
he's surely referring to the fictional worlds that have been brought up recently in the secret ending of Kingdom Hearts 3,
Yeah.
in Remind, and in Melody of Memory. For some reason, the Master of Masters shows a great interest in this world of neither light nor darkness. Perhaps, as it is a location that is yet to become tainted by the darkness, the Master wants to ensure that it remains that way, or possibly wants to claim it for himself. It has been hinted that the Foretellers, or some other ancient Keyblade Masters, might have disappeared.
That does raise some interesting questions, because obviously the next game is going to take place in this quote-unquote fictional world of Quadratum. So that does raise some questions on how exactly Master of Masters gets there, because we see that mofo up there in that hood, in that cloak. So we know the Master of Masters gets there somehow. So we got to wonder how exactly this all comes together.
Get into this fictional world, and recall that Ansem the Seeker of Darkness also showed an interest in this place. And now, Sora, Riku, Yozora, and apparently the Master of Masters himself have all entered within a year after the events of Kingdom Hearts 3. In the vein of wrapping up, I should also mention, of course, that Lauriam and Larxene may well have regained their memories from the ancient past after being defeated in Kingdom Hearts 3, and will likely have spent the last year searching for any clues of Strelitzia's whereabouts, and how to revive her. Hopefully the next installment in the franchise will give us an update on that situation as well.
I certainly hope so. Knowing now what I know about Marluxia and Larxene, or, Lauriam and Elrana, I really hope they're in Kingdom Hearts 3. I hope that they get their Keyblades back now that they have their memories. And maybe they join up to try to travel to Quadratum to get answers for this. To do something? Maybe they reunite with Ventus and reawaken his ancient memories?
Speaking of that next installment, Dark Road will apparently receive its finale in late September 2021. Hopefully, we will learn more about this mysterious second Scala and the organization that Brain has become involved with at this time. And if we're lucky, we might get some more clarification about the fate of that 13th Darkness and the whole situation with the second Brain as well.
And that'll be the next Kingdom Hearts lore video I watch, is the summary of Dark Road.
And of course, the most important question that's still to be asked. About the person who knows the story of those ancient Keyblade Masters, that forgotten Keyblade War, and the children that rebuilt the Lost World, and ensures that story is passed on to future generations. Is Kairi's grandmother Ava or Vor?
Yeah, that does make me wonder about Kairi's grandmother.
And with that, I think I'll leave you here for now, friends. I've definitely rushed through some details, particularly the ones I've already covered more thoroughly in my earlier explanation videos, but I believe this is everything you need to know about the story of Kingdom Hearts Key, Unchained Key, back cover, and Union Cross, as well as what you need to know before you enjoy the next games in the series. Rest assured though, I will absolutely be making videos elaborating further on the ending, so please ask any questions
Hopefully we
you still
figure
have,
out
and I will do my
all
best
of this
to create
stuff.
further videos to answer.
Well, we are figuring out all this stuff. Hopefully we learn when Kingdom Hearts 4 is coming soon. I hope so.
I really want to thank you for watching.
I really want Kingdom Hearts
It's
4.
been such an interesting series to create, releasing my first main video shortly before the release of Kingdom Hearts 3, when I feel no one really understood or cared about the story of the stupid mobile game, to now seeing the entire fanbase hungrily lapping up each update as we made our way towards the finale. It's a very special piece of a very special series.
Absolutely.
Thank
God,
you
I
for
love
allowing
Kingdom
me
Hearts
to be a
so
tiny
much.
part of your experience in that. And with that, I'll leave you with one final message until I see you again. May your heart be your guiding key.
God damn. Absolutely, folks. This is amazing. Go subscribe to him. So that was the story of Union Cross. There is so much I didn't know. and so much building up coming up for Kingdom Hearts 4. He also has a video on the story of Dark Road, which is the sequel, the quote-unquote sequel, I would assume. And that is, Jesus Christ, 3 times longer. It is 3 hours long. Oh. Oh! Okay, that's going to be a long one to watch. I'm probably not going to watch that one right now, but I'll watch it eventually. Okay. Let me know what you thought about all that in the comments down below, of course. Don't forget to hit like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and ding that bell so you know when I upload, and it helps me out in the algorithm. And as always, I will see you next time at the HQ. Bye-bye.